Hey, this is Tom, and if there's one thing we can all agree on, everybody was waiting for the Jackson Hole Jerome Powell speech about the state of the economy, about inflation. And that speech was delivered 24 hours ago, and I wanted to give myself enough time to think about it, analyze it. In fact, I made a 57 bullet point breaking down every single word he said. I didn't want to just push out a video immediately just to get some quick views. This is going to be a nerd festival. So if you like that sort of stuff, hang on, stick with me, but don't click nothing, don't smash nothing, don't buy nothing. There's no courses, there's no sponsorships, there's nothing to buy. Let's just get into it. So first of all, my thoughts about the delivery of the speech. Now, I watched it and I gotta be honest with you, it wasn't great, but let's be honest. I mean, Jerome Powell isn't really known to be a great public speaker. I mean, he's like Stalin. I mean, if you remember Stalin, if you're old enough, shout out to you. He wasn't a great speaker, but he delivered this stuff. And I felt a little bit monotonous, a little bit bored. I mean, I felt he doesn't really want to be there. He just have to do it. In fact, I thought to myself, this would have been a great opportunity to showcase the importance of Tesla bots. Imagine the same speech, the same words being delivered by a robot. The same result. Nothing will be different. But all jokes aside, let's talk about what he said and what he didn't say. So this is really important because despite the monotonous, boring remarks and despite of him definitely not wanting to do it, there's a lot of golden nuggets that came out of the speech, which are really important because they have a lot of meaning for the next 6 to 8 months. I'm going to break it down to you. It's going to be very nerdy. So before we get started, let me explain a few basic points of how these things work so we speak the same language, so to speak. So the way the Fed actually prints money, I'm sure you heard the sentence, the money printer goes brrr. I mean, I just mentioned this a few seconds ago. The Fed doesn't really give out money to the market in the sense like a government can send you a stimulus check. The best way for the Fed to do it is actually to purchase assets like bonds or mortgages, and that way they can actually infuse the market with a lot of cash. That's the way they do it. So these asset purchases is basically that money printer everybody's talking about in the memes. And right now, that printer is going at full speed. $120 billion of assets being purchased every year. That's the pace they have right now, and it ain't slowing down anytime soon. Now, the reason why this is such a dangerous practice is the same reason why driving a car like this is not safe. If you drive your car without touching the brakes, flooring all the way down, it's not a safe drive. The same thing with the economy. If you just go berserk like this, you might hit a wall, you might crash, you might do a lot of bad things. And in this analogy, crashing into a wall would be causing hyperinflation, which is something that will be catastrophic for the market. So he has to be careful. Now, that's the basics of how we're going to talk about it. Now, here's the thing. While everybody's seeing everything that's going on in the market right now, which is housing prices going up, stock prices going up, salaries going up, employers are literally begging to employees to go back to work. Everybody's seeing inflationary stuff. You can't get a lot of things online. Everything is sold out. I mean, there's a lot of demand for a lot of commodities, a lot of retail products. Everybody's seeing inflation. However, you can easily manipulate CPI data. You can easily manipulate job data. And that's exactly what JP was doing in this conversation. He was basically saying, well, look, employment rates are not great. Inflation isn't that high. It's just transitory, meaning fleeting. It's going to go away. It's going to be a 2% inflation all the way through, which is basically like the band that was playing on the Titanic, essentially ignoring the fact that the ship was sinking. Now, there's a good reason why he's doing it. So he had two options, in my opinion, for this speech. And Mohammed Al-Arian actually spoke about the first option, and I actually mentioned this in my first video. Because things are so bad, this is literally an intervention, right? The patient is on drugs. We gotta wean him off the drugs. We gotta put him through rehab. So basically, if Jerome Powell wanted to actually put the market through rehab and wean the market off drugs, now would be the perfect time to do it because things are so bad. We have to do this immediately. Unless you have another plan. And here's the other plan, in my opinion, which means it might be inaccurate, might be wrong, it might be the complete ramblings of a madman. This is just a theory. You can conclude your own conclusions, do your own research. I'm just sharing with you how I see things. So I'm looking at the politics game here. Right now, the government can't afford any nonsense. With everything that's going on around the world right now, Biden and the government cannot afford anything going crazy. And if Jerome Powell and the Fed decide that this is a good time to wean the market of the drugs, of the money printer, the market is going to take a hit. Nobody likes to be weaned off drugs. I mean, drug addicts don't like to go to rehab initially. It's not a pleasant situation where everybody's just happy-go-lucky, driving to the rehab center. I mean, it's a painful experience. It's the same thing for the market. Winning the market out of those 120 billion is not going to be an easy process, and the beginning is going to be painful. So you have the government basically looking at this and saying, well, the Fed, if you're going to do this right now, you're going to really screw us politically because we really are grasping at straws here. There's nothing we can do to prevent you from doing this, obviously. But if you do it, you're really going to screw us. On the other hand, you have Jerome Powell sitting there and thinking, well, my renomination is coming up in February, just in 6 months. So if I want to play my cards right, I can actually help Biden and his team and this government and actually pull through for another 6 months. This person is on drugs anyway. We can wait another 6 months before we put him to rehab. Let's wait until I get renominated. So I play my cards right. I make it seem like everything is Gucci. I explain it, and then Biden gets a win, the government gets a win, and I get renominated. If you pay attention closely to the speech, he specifically said, we're not going to do this by the end of this year, which means at least 4 months. But if they are going to do it next year, it's going to take some time. They'll have to discuss. So basically, you're looking at Q2 2022. That's the earliest they're going to do it based on what he said in the speech. Guess what? That's right after his renomination. So I would guess, based on what he said, whether you agree with him, whether you don't agree with him, whether you like him or not, what he said actually means that we have another 6 months of party like it's 1999. And since this is a very elaborate politics game, you gotta have jokers. And there's a massive joker here in play, COVID. If COVID comes back, if any variants come back, what's gonna happen to the economy? If it slows down the reopening and, God forbid, brings back lockdowns, the economy actually isn't going to reopen and it's going to roll back that growth, rolling back that inflation. So if that happens, which is a reasonable probability, I don't know if it's over 50%, under 50%, I honestly don't know. But if that happens, that means that inflation isn't going to be as bad as people expect. And them not slowing down the money printer right now is going to make them look like geniuses. So basically, JP is saying, well, I honestly don't have a choice. I have to somehow pull through until February and make people believe that that's okay. But in that time, within the next 6 months, I might be saved anyways. So I really have two choices. I'm going to pull through until February. I'm going to get renominated. And maybe in this whole process, I'm actually going to look like a genius if pandemic comes back and rolls back inflation. So it's a win-win for me. Only 6 more months. Let's do it. That's the way I see it. You can conclude your own conclusions. However, that kind of behavior causes a huge imbalance in the way the US economy operates and in many important indicators. For example, the bond market was traditionally such a great indicator of inflation. For example, when you have a high demand of bonds, that means that people are looking to get less interest for their money, meaning that inflation isn't going to be that big. However, when you have people running away from bonds, that means that they're seeing this as a losing deal. That means they're seeing a lot of inflation. When people are running away from bonds, the bond yields actually go up. And that was always the case. You could easily look at the bond market, look at the trend, and see what's going on with inflation. But now, since the Fed has completely started money printing like crazy, and they're creating all this fake demand for bonds, I'm saying that the whole bond market as an indicator of inflation is RIP. It's gone. And I really wanted you to understand this because I don't think you can look at the bond market anymore as an indicator of inflation. I think the Fed took it away with all this money printing. But again, what do I know? I'm just a guy on the internet. Now, let me know below your thoughts. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Shout out to the channel members and the patrons. We actually have a Zoom call coming up just with patrons and channel members this Monday. So I think it's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern time. If you join by then, you can jump on the call. We'd love to see you there. $5 per month and you'll be supporting the channel. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow.